3,200 years ago, the ancient world trembled with the sound of war. At the fortress city of Kadesh, on the banks of the Orontes River, two great superpowers clashed in what would become the largest chariot battle ever fought. On one side stood Pharaoh Ramesses II, called Ramesses the Great, ruler of Egypt. On the other stood the Hittite Empire, proud and powerful, determined to resist Egyptian expansion. This was no ordinary conflict. It was a battle of nations, a struggle for survival, and the making of a legend. Ramesses II was a king unlike any other. He reigned for more than 60 years, building colossal monuments that still tower over the desert. His temples at Abu Simbel, his statues at Luxor, his colossal images carved into stone, all proclaimed his might. Yet despite his devotion to architecture and the gods, Ramesses was also a warrior. He dreamed of stretching Egypt's power far beyond the Nile.
For eternity. Yes, Pharaoh. And our legacy will be unmatched.
This is where we shall make our mark.
His eyes turned north to the trade routes of Syria, where the fortress city of Kadesh lay like a jewel between two empires. Whoever controlled Kadesh would control the wealth of the ancient Near East, and neither Egypt nor the Hittites would yield it. The road to Kadesh was long and dangerous. Ramesses marched north with 4 massive divisions of soldiers, each named after one of Egypt's great gods, Amun, Ra, Ta, and Seth. Thousands of infantry, hundreds of chariots, and endless supplies poured across the desert. The pharaoh himself rode at the head of the Amun division, confident in the strength of his army, confident that the gods would grant him victory. Yet even kings can be deceived. Hittite scouts, pretending to be deserters, were brought before Ramesses. They told him that the Hittite army was far away, days of marching from Kadesh. Ramesses believed their words, and the trap was set. For in truth, the Hittite king Muwatalli had hidden thousands of his soldiers and over 2,000 chariots behind the very walls of Kadesh,
We saw no
waiting
one,
to strike.
honorable officer. Only the empty desert.
Speak! What news do you bring?
Terrible news, my lord.
On the dusty plain outside the city, the Egyptians set up camp. Soldiers pitched their tents, watered their horses, and stacked their shields in neat rows. They believed they had time. They believed the enemy was still far away. But as the sun sank low and the desert wind howled, silence broke into thunder. The ground shook as the Hittite chariot corps, the most powerful strike force of the age, burst forth from hiding. "2,000 war chariots rolled down like a tidal wave, horses screaming, wheels tearing across the earth, bronze-tipped spears glinting in the fading light. They smashed into the unprepared Egyptians, scattering men and animals in a storm of chaos. Ramesses found himself surrounded. His Amun division, isolated from the rest of the army, was being cut down. Soldiers fled in panic, trampled under hooves, crushed beneath wheels. Dust choked the air, arrows rained down, and the pharaoh, the living god of Egypt, stood on the brink of annihilation. But Ramesses was not a man to surrender.
For Egypt!
Ancient inscriptions carved into temple walls tell us what happened next. Standing in his golden chariot, Ramesses lifted his bow and called upon Amun, the king of gods, for strength. Alone with only his bodyguard, he charged directly into the heart of the enemy. His arrows struck true, his horses thundered forward, and the pharaoh himself turned the tide of battle. The Egyptians believed he fought with the fury of a lion, and in that moment, the god and the man became one. The battle raged on. Hittite chariots crashed against Egyptian shields. Egyptian spearmen thrust back with desperate strength. The desert became a storm of bronze, blood, and fire. And then salvation arrived. The divisions of Ta and Ra, marching from behind, finally reached the battlefield. Reinforcements poured in, and the Egyptians struck back with renewed force. The Hittites, stunned by Ramesses' defiance and pressed hard by fresh troops, began to falter. They withdrew behind the walls of Kadesh, leaving the field littered with broken chariots, shattered shields, and the bodies of the fallen. The largest chariot battle in history had ended in stalemate. Neither side claimed the city. Neither side could declare absolute victory. But pharaohs were not bound by truth. Ramesses would not accept a draw. In temples across Egypt, he had scenes of the battle carved into stone. In every carving, he appeared larger than life, a single hero standing against thousands, chosen by the gods, triumphant by his own hand. His people saw him not only as king, but as warrior, protector, and God incarnate. And yet, beyond the propaganda, the legacy of Kadesh endured in another way. Years later, the Egyptians and Hittites signed the world's first known peace treaty. Written in cuneiform and hieroglyphs, copies have survived to this day. It was an agreement to end hostilities, to respect borders, and to share prosperity. From bloodshed came diplomacy. From battle came one of humanity's first steps toward peace. Today, the name Kadesh still echoes through history. It is remembered as a battlefield of ambition and pride, of cunning and courage, of deception and survival. But above all, it is remembered as the crucible that forged the legend of Ramesses II, the pharaoh who faced the greatest ambush of his age and emerged not broken, but eternal.